name is Janet Laidla, and I work at the University of Tartu in Estonia. I'm looking at women in education in the 19th century mostly and beginning of 20th century. And more specifically, I'm looking at two groups. These are governesses and then staff at the universities. So governesses traveled to find work, and also academics, women academics, they tend to travel as well. First to get an education because the girls' schools were not very common everywhere. So first they had to travel to go to school, and then both of them, governesses and university staff, had to travel to find employment as well. For example, in the early modern period, there were fewer educated women. Mostly courts and high nobility could afford to have a governess for the daughters. There were, of course, some exceptions, some literati, some clergymen who also educated their daughters, but these were few. As the time went on, this became more and more common. So more and more families were employing a governess. So we needed more governesses, and there were also more educated women. And then there were more schools, and they became higher and higher in time. So in the 19th century, in the middle of the 19th century, women were first allowed to the universities, especially in Switzerland, but also in the UK, in the United States as well. So women traveled to those places where they could find the opportunity to study. And then they had to find opportunities to work. At some point, there were a lot of women already educated, a lot of women working as governesses in some places. So they had to find other places of employment. And one of the bigger employers of governesses from Western European countries was the Russian Empire. So there were governesses from Britain, from France, from Switzerland, and from Germany coming into Russian Empire, but also actually all over the world. Of course, there were debates at the same time when more women became educated, whether it is good for women. So they were arguing that perhaps it's not very useful for women to have education. Maybe their brains were not equipped to be educated, to learn Latin and all those other complicated things. However, there were also voices against it. And often in the 19th century, those for women's education also argued that actually this makes them good wives and mothers, because when they marry, they have to run a household, they have to teach their children. So educated mothers and wives are actually better for the family and for the society. There was internal migration, however, because the universities and the schools were in the cities, and not all of the girls were, of course, born in the cities at that time. So there was definitely internal migration, but there was also external, when they couldn't find a placement as a governess. So they also traveled, for example, to the Russian Empire because they were German speaking or they had learned German. And also at the universities, there was a future professor, Hilda Taba, who was able to do her graduate studies in the United States and also postgraduate studies. And so she applied for a position at the University of Tartu as a professor, and she was not chosen. We don't know exactly why. I haven't found the official documents, and perhaps they don't exist anymore at all. There were rumors, but we have to be naturally very critical about those rumors. So Hilda Taba went back to the United States and continued her career there. There's also a Baltic German minority in the 1920s and the 1930s in Estonia who also did their PhDs. And a lot of them also moved to Germany to continue their education. Just one of the examples is that we, in the beginning of this year, didn't know who was the first Estonian, and here I mean ethnicity, not the country, to get a PhD. And there were two names around. There was Johanna Sild-Rebane and Alida Boom-Teemant. But my research has uncovered that it's actually a third person called Helene Dar, who was the first. And they all did their PhDs in Switzerland because during that period, University of Tartu didn't give degrees out to women yet. So that was totally new information. And Helene Dar married a fellow university student who was an Italian, and they moved to Berlin. And I think that they also moved back to Italy. And well, she did visit Estonia during her holidays, but she was definitely a woman on the move.
My name is Marta Mendel. I act as the Vice Rector for International Cooperation at the Warsaw University of Life Sciences. Probably the biggest number of migration comes to students, both incoming and outgoing. In our case, it's mainly female who are interested in semester or a year that they spent abroad. It's approximately 80% of all students that decide for this amazing adventure and change and opportunity to experience something different. In terms of academic staff, it's 60% women who decide for this step in their career. In students' case, it's mostly exchange programs that they use to spend a semester, a year, or maybe even a little bit longer.
I'm Silvia Leoni. I am a lecturer in economics at the Maastricht University in the Netherlands. The Erasmus program started in 1987. It is an acronym that stands for European Region Action Scheme for the Mobility of Universities. And it is the result of an idea of Sofia Corradi, which is known as the mother of Erasmus. And as a result of the joint effort of all the European universities working at that time. Erasmus is characterized by a strong gender imbalance in favor of women. So there is a much stronger participation, a much broader participation of female students rather than male students. And this is certainly connected to the fact that more female students are enrolled in higher education in Europe rather than male. It is certainly different to be a permanent migrant and a temporary migrant, as it is different to face everyday life without knowing that at a certain point you will be back to your home place or to your family. So it comes with the struggles of being far from family, from friends, who still live in my home countries. It comes with different difficulties, different challenges that one has to face day by day.